Before we get into episode 3 of WandaVision, I just want to thank everyone who watched my last video where I discussed episodes 1 and 2, where I called episode 1 a masterpiece in television making. Now, let's talk about episode 3. They were given episode titles after the first 2 aired, so the third one is called Now in Colour, which, as you can assume, was the first episode that was in colour. Very basic premise to this one, which was that Wanda's entire pregnancy kind of happened during this episode, and I think it only took place over a space of a few hours, but by the end of it, she'd given birth to 2 babies. Unexpected, one might say. A lot of the comedy came from the accelerated pregnancy. Paul Bettany as Vision was hilarious as he was trying to go through the terrifying aspects of learning what he needs to do to be a dad, but whilst at the same time his wife is seemingly going through a month of pregnancy every hour. So having had children myself, I understood Vision's pain, and I am relieved I never had to do it at the speed and pace that Vision had to. During this entire pregnancy, if you want to call it that, Vision is off trying to get a doctor and such, but Geraldine comes over to Wanda's house. Geraldine, obviously, from the last episode, is one of the many people who doesn't know that Wanda's even pregnant, let alone about to give birth, because this has just happened so quickly. And it did sort of raise the point that the characters in this world that Wanda and Vision are inhabiting are clearly not just programmed into the events of the world, because if they were, they probably would have no problem with Wanda being suddenly pregnant and such. But as it comes on later on, Geraldine is a bit shocked that Wanda's pregnant and such, so they can detect weird things going on in the world, which will bring on to my point later about who these people may be. There's hilarious sort of, 10 minutes of the show, I guess, where Wanda is trying to hide the fact that she's pregnant from Geraldine. It leads to lots of comedy and moments where Wanda thinks Geraldine's figured it out, but it turns out Geraldine's talking about something completely different, until eventually Geraldine has to help her give birth to the first child. Which was a very funny scene. It's got all the breathing, like whatever the breathing is. I don't know. We never really did any class on that with my 2 kids. It was just get the baby out of there. Let's just do it. During all this, obviously, when Vision gets back and he realizes he's a dad, and then they have the second kid come by surprise as well. They both get to name the kids. The neighbours outside are acting a bit weird. If you remember in the last episode, Vision was talking about how people at work were saying some weird neighbours had moved in and things like that. So Wanda had said it was probably them, but this episode kind of confirmed for us that it was not them, it's Geraldine. And the neighbours seem to know more about Geraldine than we would expect. They even hint at what they are. What are they? They know something is amiss. And it turns out Geraldine doesn't have a house or anything. She's just there. She's been inserted into the world. But they wouldn't tell Vision what they were, what they all are. I don't know if it's prisoners or something. I don't know what they were going to say. But they clearly are not part of the program now. So I've taken that to mean that they are also people trapped in this world. I kind of got that hint with Emma Caulfield's character in episode 2. Is it Dottie? I can't remember her character's name yet. But when the radio was playing and suddenly she looked at Wanda as if she hadn't even seen her before and was like, who are you? Who are you? And she started to panic. And then switched back. There's definitely enough suggestion now, I think, that everyone we're seeing in this world is a real person. At least that's what I think now. That might change come the next episode that airs. This was obviously enough to get Vision to start questioning things around him. And he does raise these points with Wanda at the end. But before this, it's a really, really important moment. Wanda mentions that she had a brother. If you remember, it was Quicksilver from Avengers Age of Ultron. He died in that film. Wanda mentions his name, he's not there. And you see Geraldine suddenly remember something. And she spills that she knows that Wanda's brother was killed by Ultron. And this makes Wanda be like, you know what? What did you just say? And you then start to see Geraldine start to try and cover her tracks and reset. And then Wanda notices that Geraldine's wearing a necklace with the sword symbol on it. And she's like, what is that? What is that symbol? What does that represent? So she obviously is familiar with the symbol, which suggests that Wanda has had some dealings with s.w.o.r.d before the events of this series that we've seen. So it raises even more questions. But basically, when Vision came back into the house after this weird conversation with the neighbours, Geraldine was gone, and Wanda was almost reset again to the happy-go-lucky new mum of 2. And you get the feeling that Vision is not going to be able to be reset so easily. And it did raise questions as to whether or not Wanda is even necessarily a good guy in this, because we've seen her reset the program when she told Vision to save his boss in the first episode, when she said no to the beekeeper in the second episode, and it reset backwards so they could do it again without that. And then in this episode with Geraldine, when Vision mentioned things were getting weird, he suddenly rewound back to before he said that, and then they just started talking about something else. The big question about Geraldine's disappearance is, did Wanda do it? Or did whatever may be overseeing this world do it? So we don't know that yet. I think we're going to find out in this episode, coming up now, episode 4, which drops this week. Did someone else kick her out and reset Wanda, or did Wanda do it and then reset herself? I have a feeling it could be the latter. If that's the case, why is Wanda being so protective over this world and this life? Is it because she just wants to keep Vision with her there? I'm not convinced that we won't be able to take Vision out of this world, mind, because Vision is definitely like self-aware in this world. We've seen a lot of his scenes. He's definitely experiencing these things, so he must exist in some way. But then, if I think about it, Vision's the only one that we've seen Wanda rewind time with, so to speak. I don't think we've seen her do it with any other characters. So maybe Vision isn't really a part of the world. I don't know, it's very confusing, but I'm loving it. The episode ended with Geraldine being kicked out of the city. We were outside, it was nighttime, we saw a big base and helicopters, tanks, soldiers, and a big energy field around something. And Geraldine got booted out of it and then was then surrounded by troops. Now, is she working with those troops? The sword symbol on her necklace leads me to believe maybe she is. I don't think we definitely got proof the soldiers are with sword though, so we'll see. But we now know that the town they're in is really a town, and it's seemingly surrounded by some sort of energy field that is not letting other people into it, is what I took. But then how did Geraldine get in? That'll be interesting. So it looks like Geraldine was not meant to be part of the program. So what was my favourite part of the episode? I always wonder, like, how do I get down to just like one? I think my favourite bits were, I'm going to say bits. Definitely my favourite bits were when Vision was just freaking out about, changing nappies or diapers, as Americans will call them. Just anything to do with a baby, whilst at the same time Wanda's pregnancy was just happening so quickly. That was just really funny. Maybe it's because I'm a dad now, I just really identified with Vision in those scenes, because it does seem to go super fast as well, the pregnancy, but also super slow at the same time. It's a very weird feeling. It's a bit wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey, as the doctor would say. Yeah, those are probably my favourite parts of the episode. I called the first episode a masterpiece. I called the second episode very good, which for me is a 5 out of 5 and a 4 out of 5, respectively. But I don't like how ratings look, so I've given them a language rating instead. Was this one as high as those? For me, actually, this was good, which means it was a 3 out of 5. There was a lot more revealed in this episode about the world and what's going on. We still don't know anything, but we know more now, quicker than I thought, actually. So I'm surprised by that, but grateful for it. It's now making me sort of hone in on some other theories and things, but the episode kind of wasn't so set in the sitcom world in the way that the previous ones had felt. This one had a bit more of, what's going on here. Certainly the last few minutes of the episode were about that. So this didn't quite reach the heights of the first 2 episodes, but quite often when you get an episode that is a sort of bridge between, in this case, the sitcom world and then all the mystery that's going on and sort of changing the tone of the show, quite often that will sometimes mean that you have an episode that doesn't quite meet the standard that has been set previously. And that happens here. This is a very good episode still. This is still my favourite show of 2021 so far, which isn't saying much because there's not many shows currently airing, but it's my favourite show this year. It's one of my favourite additions to the Marvel Cinematic Universe already, but this one was a lot of setup. There was a lot going on here to set up later on. So I cannot wait for episode 4 just to see what the hell is going on. Elizabeth Olsen has said in interviews that episode 4 offers a different perspective, and it just really reveals a lot more. I don't know what any of that means, but I don't know if it maybe means that we're going to see more from outside the town, maybe where Geraldine is. Is Geraldine going to take on a more key role? I don't know. I don't even want to guess because I'll just look silly and be wrong. But what I do know is that WandaVision is an incredibly well-made show. It looks beautiful. Elizabeth Olsen is knocking it out of the park. If there is not an Emmy nomination for her, I will be gobsmacked. Paul Bettany, he's probably going to be up for an Emmy himself as well. He's hilarious in this. And my missus said that she's not sure she's ever going to be able to take Vision seriously again when she watches the old things, just because of how funny he is in this series. So it'll be interesting to go back and watch him in previous films, particularly sort of like the tragic death he suffered in Infinity War. So those are my thoughts on WandaVision episode 3, now in colour. What were your thoughts? Please let me know in the comments or drop me a private message, depending on whichever platform you are watching this video on, and I look forward to engaging with you. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to my channel. So like the video, subscribe to the video channel. There's a link at the end of this video now. There's also one in the bottom right corner of your screen. You can just click that and subscribe. And I look forward to chatting to you all more about the MCU and what comes up on WandaVision.